And now, the Street Photography Magazine podcast with your host, Bob Patterson.
Welcome back to the Street Photography Magazine podcast. I'm Bob Patterson, publisher of Street Photography Magazine, and Ashley Riffo, our editor, is here as well. So I'm glad she's on today. Ashley, what's cooking?
Not too much. Happy to be here. Excited to talk to our guests.
I know. Me too. And at one point, 2 days ago, and then a few days before that, we were probably about a mile apart, except I was on a highway going through her town. But unfortunately, we couldn't see each other in person, which is too bad. So anyhow, our guest today is Hillary Greene-Pae. She lives in Calabasas, California. She is a psychologist, clinical psychologist, and a real estate investor. So she's a busy person, and she's also one really good photographer in many genres, not just street photographer. So Hillary, thank you very much for being with us.
It's my pleasure and my honor. Thank you.
Yeah, and you also have the honor of sharing my wife's first name. For a long time, she was the only person I knew.
Hillary's in my life, so that is definitely an honor as well.
My sister-in-law is Hillary too, actually.
You never told me that. Oh,
Wow,
maybe you
I
did,
guess I
and I
didn't.
forgot.
My God, I think we now have half the world of Hillarys.
They are
all
now.
here.
I mean, yeah, her mom named her that because she was born the same year that Sir Edmund Hillary climbed Mount Everest.
I was named after a character in a book.
Oh, really? That's interesting. What book?
I don't know the book, actually.
That's all right. That's all right. So, Hillary, thank you very much. Told her before, she's been a subscriber of the magazine for a while, and she's submitted single images several times, and we got 2 of them just a few weeks ago. I had a very difficult time choosing one. We only publish one per person in any month. And they're both very, very strong images. And then I thought, well, I'm going to look at your website. And I didn't spend too much time on it when I said, okay, we have to get her on here. So I immediately sent you an invitation. So thanks for accepting.
What was it in my website or in my photos that you responded to?
Boy, that's a good question. Many things. Well, the quality of your work. I was saving some of this for later, but that's okay. You're a professional question asker. And no, the quality of your work, your street photography, definitely. I like the fact you shoot wide a lot and you shoot from different angles. A lot of really interesting low shots. Your portraits are very powerful and emotional. And your website overall, I like the fact that you keep it pretty lean. I'm sure you have thousands of great photos to show, but you must be a really tough editor of your own work because each of those galleries doesn't have a whole lot, but it's very meaty. A lot of people, myself included, can learn from the way you have curated your own work, which is not easy to do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. When I've had pictures, I've won an award for a selection of pictures or been in a gallery, I'm often surprised at what they pick because it's not what I would pick, and it's not and so that's always been such a curiosity to me. Why did you pick that one? I thought this one was so much more meaningful or better framed and technically better. So I'm always curious because I learn a lot by that kind of feedback and what type.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I assume you've gotten a lot of feedback from other photographers over the years. Maybe not.
I only have exposed my work since 2020 during the pandemic. I was just way too busy seeing patients or running the real estate business to really do anything with it. It was just a passion of mine. It started with taking portraits for people. It started with as a hobby in graduate school, and then it turned into a grant where Polaroid gave me a grant to photograph the elderly as a way of self-esteem and to give them meaning. And then it evolved in my taking children. I took children to Africa and to China, around the world every summer, and documenting these different cultures and different ways of living. And so it's kind of evolved over the years. So I haven't had much exposure to it recently.
It's interesting that you said, sometimes you're surprised, like, oh, this one's more technically perfect. And so often we see that it's not always the technically perfect work that really reaches your heart or affects you when you see it. One thing I noticed about your work when I was looking at it is that you've captured a lot of scenes that we have seen a lot. There's actually a lot of street photographers in California, so that, the skate park, there's a lot of things that we see, a lot
Venice.
of pictures come through.
Yeah.
Yes, but you've captured scenes in a way that have a special emotion. Or I thought that the way you used color was very interesting too. I like the leading color picture in your gallery with it's people on a bus, or
In Japan.
I believe it's a bus.
It's a bus in Japan.
And that's a photo we see all the time, people sitting on a bus. But the color and the composition make that photo so much more. So there's something interesting about your perspective or a way you see people that has an impact, I think.
Well, I suppose it's being a therapist. I'm actually a clinical social worker, not a psychologist. And I think the difference in that is that you take people in context. It's all about their culture.
Yeah.
It's all about their relationships within a family structure, and so I'm always looking for how do I see the people? What are they sharing, telling me? So I'm always trying to take it from their perspective.
Do you approach people and speak to them?
Sometimes
usually?
A lot, because I've noticed that even if I'm trying to be secretive and candid, they always know somehow that I'm taking their picture. And I prefer a lot of time to the candid, but often I'll go up and just say, I've taken your picture, or would you like me to send this to you? So I'd say, 50-50. If sometimes I'll ask her, I say, just chat, but I prefer the candid, but it'll be, I'd say 50.
And I'm so glad you mentioned the word context, because that's one of the, I guess, almost subliminal things I see in your work. Almost everybody you show, you're showing them within context that just fits, and which in the same time gives you very strong backgrounds, even in street photographs where you don't often have time to worry about what's in the background. But, if you have photos with crappy backgrounds, you probably just don't show them, I'm sure.
Well, it's always about telling a story. My son's a classical guitarist, and he tells the story of working with Pepe Romero in his first year on stage in front of an audience or in master class, and he couldn't even remember his name. And Pepe came up to him and put his hand on his leg and said, Andrew, just tell them a story and move their emotion. And so it's always about telling a story for me. And often, people get so flattered, or it's brought light to their lives to know that someone thinks they're interesting or beautiful. And I tend to try to send them the picture if I can get their name, because it sometimes gives them a different perspective of themselves.
Just like the people you worked with the Polaroids years ago?
Yeah, a long time ago, many, many years ago.
Was that when you first became interested in photography, or were you already taking photos before then?
I think I've always been interested in the visual. I think I'm a visual person, although I picked an auditory career, and I liked it. And so people would say, well, can you do our wedding? Can you do this? And so it's always been something that allowed me to give back to people and a way of expressing myself. But I've never really taken it too seriously. Even after that, you get involved in life. But my kids used to always complain, Mom, you're taking pictures all the time. Can we not, in the Great Wall of China, Mom, we can't stay on the wall too long. Let's go somewhere else. Now my daughter is an avid taker of pictures now because of the iPhone of her children, right? It changes over time.
Yeah, you can't linger on the Great Wall of China. You have too many people asking to buy a T-shirt.
No, not too much.
So how much has your work in the clinical field affected your style or your vision in photography?
I think a lot. When I first started taking portraits, I was focusing on them and their space, their image, their hands, and it was very There was no background really. It was just really the emotion. And then when I was doing training where we had to video ourselves in there, I realized there was a lot more than just a face, that, their hands told something, their body told something. And all of a sudden my work changed into, I want to see the whole person. I want to see them in the context of where they are today at that moment. What are they feeling? What are they trying to tell us? So I think it's changed a lot that way.
Yeah, and I noticed on your website you have an artist statement, or maybe it's just your about page, and you said you like to capture the moment. I want to make sure I get this right, as both an observer and a participant.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about that.
Well, I mean,
how do you feel about that? No,
how do I feel about that?
I'm not going.
I mean, those times that I am walking in a fair and I see a dad with his mom and I've just taken the picture, and they'll come up to me and say, well, why did you take that picture?
Sure.
And then we'll just start chatting about what I'm saying. Hey, look in the camera. This is what I saw. It was such a beautiful, lovely moment together. And so, and it allows me to feel like I'm part of that picture. I'm in the frame, and I'm always trying to find my voice. As I get older and my life changes, my voice changes, and I can see my own evolution that way.
So where is it now as opposed to where it started? Your voice, I mean.
I suppose I'm a street photographer is really where I would define documenting life as at the moment, the different ways to live a life, the different ways of having meaning in your life. I mean, I experimented during the pandemic and when I'm really busy doing studio work, like, a gallery wanted whiskey glasses and so, okay, I'll do that. And then I decided I wanted to do a series, which I just won an award for, and trying to do an x-ray of a flower. I couldn't actually do that, but how could I get that flower to look translucent? And so I come up with these ideas of, can I do this? So it's like experimenting. And I have a mentor who's I've known for 25 years. He's a DP, Luke, and he has been very inspirational for me and teaching me, other ways to see the world, because I've not had any real formal training. I mean, I've gone to some workshops that have been lovely, that have taken me around the world. I've worked with a photographer that went to Cuba. And it's one way of my being with 4 or 5 people and seeing the country, but also seeing a different photographer's point of view. And I've gone to Milan. I've gone to Japan. I worked with a man named Steve Simon, and he was working with some people from Nikon, and we got to do a book, and that was learning how to put your photographs in a sequence to tell stories. And it wasn't just about he's eating breakfast and now he's eating lunch. No, it's about, well, the color matches here and the shape. Well, I'd never thought about putting them sequenced in this way. So
yeah, we've been through the same thing when we made our book.
I did this book called Hands, Paws, and Claws when I went to this kind of rescue. And I put together this little book of the animals and then little sayings about what the animals were saying to give them something they could use to raise money. So called Animal Tracks. But that was a fun little project. So finding projects gives you meaning. You don't know where it's going to go, do you?
I like how you were saying that you find that everyone has a story, and you can see a story on the street, and it's good to have it in context. How do you do that, though? How do you know when you're seeing a story? Is it about the person you see, or is it events unfolding?
It depends. I was working in the flower market, taking in the flower district in LA, and there was this homeless person, and I just thought she had this, and she had chains on around her. And I just went up to her and I said, why are you wearing the chains? She said, well, I used to be a model. And I said, well, and would you like to model for me? And so I have a book of her with the chains. And I never got to what the chains meant to her. But for her, it made her feel like she had lost everything about herself. So that was the story that she and I communicated. I had curiosity, and she, we actually bumped into each other, and that's how the story started. So, and it's sometimes I just see someone with a rose on their arm and they're picking flowers, and I'll take a picture. Then she'll ask me, well, why did you do that? And I'll say, well, this is what I
love that. I feel like that's something anybody could take away when you're questioned about why you're photographing. Just say, well, look, this is what I saw. I really love that.
And
I,
often they will just feel important for that moment and rather than intruded upon.
Yeah, I feel like that goes with what you've talked about on your About page too, about being aware, being a witness to other people.
Yes. I mean, I think that's me. Having us feeling like we've been seen is a really important thing in life, isn't it?
and you're probably more aware of that than most of us.
Probably.
So when you talked about the woman in chains and you asked her to model for you, was it right there on the spot?
Yeah. Yeah.
On the street? Or so okay, I thought maybe you got her.
No,
Oh, wow.
I never really, I've had to learn this. I never really take them out of their context. I might ask them to move left or right, but I tried and probably could do a better job sometimes if I asked them to move more, but I never want to be too intrusive and take too much of their time. So I've had to learn to, really think about what's the best way to shoot them. And I never want to shoot them. I always want to find a new way to shoot, a new way to see them. That's why you'll find my different angles. Otherwise, it's going to be like everybody else's photo.
Yeah, yeah. And yours don't look like everybody else. I think that's one of the things that really caught my eye, particularly your portraits. As I said, I find them to be very emotional. The particularly, I don't want to talk since this is an audio podcast, but you've got one in particular in the black and white, your black and white series of a guy. I think he's wearing a hat. It's the second one. He's looking off to the side and he's got a big white circle. It reminded me of the iconography from, back in like ancient Christian times where they always had like a circle behind, Mary's head or.
It was someone on the street in Cuba, I think, is the you're talking about. I mean, some of the work I liked the best was the stuff in Clarksdale, which is like the Mississippi, which is the home of blues. And I've never really been in the South before. I'm a East Coast Boston girl. And just there was music in every corner. And there was this father with his son who must have been maybe 10, and I mean, brilliant guitarist, and his daughter who really didn't want to be there. And it was like that emotion of that family and and the closeness of that family, and that they were playing and there was an empty tin and there was no money. Weren't doing it really for money, but you could see the love between them and the story of their relationships.
And that's one of the photos you sent to the magazine, which be in, I think it's in September. I'll have to go back and check.
Okay, I think you're right.
But that bowled me over when I saw it. I look at a lot of photos. I look at everything that comes through for that section, and that really jumped out. But how do you get these people to be so genuine when they pose? Is it going back to your profession again that you're able to connect?
Those were all candid. Those were not. None of those were posed.
Really?
I was sitting. There were chairs in the back, and I was sitting there. And they were so into their music, and that I did go up to them during a break and just say, I hope you don't mind my shooting. And I actually tried to find him. He's now moved to South America. And just send him some photos of what I took of him and his children. But versus the woman, that was just my sitting there watching them perform and just shooting away. And there were so many I liked, it was hard to pick because they were so natural. They were so comfortable in their own skin.
What do you think, Hillary, that your photos say about you?
I actually don't know, to be honest. I don't think about it that way. I think about what I'm learning from them. And I guess I propose that question, guys, to you guys. What do you think they say about me? It's a good question. I haven't thought about that, actually.
I think you almost said it yourself. I think it shows you're a curious person. I think it shows you're an approachable person. and that you care about people.
That I do.
That's what I see without spending many hours with your work. That's what I see.
Yeah, you pay very close attention. I imagine you're a very good listener, even though you're using your eyes and not your ears. And obviously, you look at the entire frame and that could, you could tell you care.
Well,
I mean, it's not like, hey, I just got a great shot. Good for me. It's more than that. It's so much deeper than that.
I put a goal of anytime I'm shooting, if I get 10 shots of the day, then I'm really, really happy, because you never really know what you're shooting and how it's going to translate, because I'm just so much in the moment. Like I was doing a car show the other day, and it was like what I thought I was going to shoot in the car show was these people with their cars, but it was so bloody. I went, okay, so what can I do now? So I decided to ask them to tell me a story about them in the car, and then I took it from the passenger side. So I just tried so that I wouldn't have all this background noise. So how can I look at the situation? Not what I expected, but what could I do that's different here to still get a story?
So when you said you took it from the passenger side, did you have them get in the car?
I did.
I did. The drivers?
I did, and asked them, what does it feel like being in the driving? Why did you get into it? So I would do this little, that's when I was a participant at that point. And so I wasn't doing Candids at that point. I was just documenting their moments and their masterpieces that they loved.
So about how many, I don't even want to use this word, but I'm going to say it, keepers did you get from that day?
God, I probably got, it's tough because I ended up going to the fair after that. And I was helping a friend of mine who wanted to be a photographer, and he was having a really tough time. And I said, okay, why don't you just take hood ornaments? Okay, I'm going to do the people. Just take something like the hood ornaments and see if you can just do something like that. So I probably got maybe 8 photographs that I really liked from that day, not a lot. And then I went over to the fair, and I found this young man who he was a juxtaposition. There's a guy with he was saying my pronouns are fuck you, and he had a big bag
I saw
of popcorn, and it was like that. It was just it was so different, and then so they were just it was just a different moment. So my eye went to something completely different in shooting at that moment because the subjects were different.
Yeah, what fair was that?
It was a little fair in Agora. It was just a tiny little local fair for the Labor Day weekend. And then you'll see some of them where I was experimenting with shooting at night and doing where there was a lot of motion and how could I make that merry-go-round look different. And then I did some things with light photography where I was in the dark and I took a vase from my house and I was, using different light sources and trying to create different images. And it's not the thing I love doing the most, but it was fun to experiment.
That's right. When you're on the street, what focal length do you typically use? We rarely talk about gear or anything like that, but I'm just interested.
I have like 105, a little. So, or I've got to think about it. I'd like a little bit of a wide angle. I don't.
Yeah, it looks like it. A lot of them.
That tends to be because it's not I like to get things maybe a bit distorted, not to distort the people, but if I'm using a regular lens, then I can't get as many different angles as I can with a very slight wide angle. So I tend to I tend to like that tends to be my favorite go-to lens.
Yeah, it seems like you're not afraid to, like you say, different angles. Get down low, get up high.
I'll be often very dirty, on the ground. Because my 24 to 105 lens is one of my favorite, and the other is my 15 to 35 millimeter lens. Those are two of the ones that, if I didn't have any other lenses, I'd be really happy. Those two. I like my macro as well, but I don't use it very much. I tend to like to be close up. I'm not someone who shoots from a faraway distance.
No, you sure don't. You sure don't. Sorry, I'm just looking through some of your portraits now. I like the one guy. Got this guy in the bottom. Well, not really the bottom. You're looking down on him. He's on the far right side of the frame, looking up at you. I don't know how else to describe it, but you know what? I can tell just from his eyes. I mean, he's looking at you.
Yes.
You know, it's not like, I mean, you can see a connection there. It's not like, you know, he's looking at the lens or above the lens. I mean, it's like you said something to him to connect with him.
I often will just say something about, I really, like your shirt, or wow, that was such a lovely moment that you did. Something to allow them to make me non-threatening, or that I am not doing something to be imposing. I remember when I was in Clarksdale, I felt like an idiot, but there was a man walking down the street and he had striped pants on, and I'm going, gee, those are interesting. And then I found out that he was a prisoner. And that he was, and the striped pants represented his prison uniform, and he was cleaning the street. Well, I've never really seen that before. I thought it was some kind of, outfit he was wearing. And so he was just telling me what his crime was, and that was how he was playing penance. And it was like, okay.
Did you take his picture?
I did take a picture. I did. I haven't yet printed that up yet. I'm slowly getting into Instagram and using my website. I've not, now I have some time to focus on that stuff.
Yeah, which brings up another question. You said you're semi-retired.
Yes.
Moving towards being retired. So what are you going to do when you've got no other financial commitments? What are you going to do at that time?
Well, I will always see a couple of patients, I will run the business, even though they have corporate leases and they're not all that demanding. I think there are a lot of photographers that offer workshops around the world. Never been to Australia, Morocco, and to be able to have the honor to work with a few would be something that I'd be really interested in. A way for me as a single woman to go out and feel safe and have a little community is something I will do. I will, I don't have any master plans of where I want what to do with my work. Yeah. I'm also a poker player. I run a poker group every night. And done that since around the pandemic. But when my dad passed away, he was an avid poker player. Just thought I'd have to get comfortable with money. So I went and started to play poker and decide I really like it. But it's competitive and I like that. But it's also community. I now play with people once or twice a week, and you spend 5 hours with them. So you know their stories, and there's the ex-baseball players, there's an ex-district attorney, they're retired physicians. So it's such a varied group, and that to me is about community and challenge. Taking photography is a challenge. Every time I go out, I'm challenging myself to experiencing something new.
I was going to ask you this, Hillary. You know that Kenny Rogers song, "The Gambler"? No one to hold 'em, no one to fold 'em. Any advice like that?
Never count your money at the table.
Yeah.
Yes. What kind of poker lessons can you give us that apply to street photography?
Position. Where you are to bet is probably one of the most important things you can play in poker, which is if you have a jack 10, it's better to play that at the late position than it is to play it in an early position. Why? You get more information when you're in late position. You know if someone's having pocket aces or queens. If you have the weaker hand, you can play them when you're late position because maybe only one or two people have bet. So you want to pay attention to your position. You want to pay attention to which cards to play at your position. You also need to play the player. That's important as well. And that there's a bite of luck. I had full house is a good thing to have. I got beat by quads. I did nothing wrong. I just lost. So you have to learn how to
Yeah.
lose without taking it personally. So there's a lot of lessons to learn in poker. It's much more, it's easy to learn and hard to master.
I heard a quote once. I hope I don't mangle it, but it said, when you join a poker game and you don't know who the sucker is, it's probably you.
Yeah, one of the guys in our poker group was a pitcher for the Dodgers, and we were in a tournament, and there are several in my group who's won $1 million in tournament play. Not me. I'm not
Oh.
in it. Tournament is a different game than cash. The rules are the same, but because you can't rebuy, you have to play your strategies different. And he would be very nervous playing in a tournament, and I said, Randy, why? And he said, because when I was a pitcher, I knew the stats. I knew
Uh-huh.
everything about the hitter. I know nothing about these players when I'm in a tournament. And so I don't have that security. I don't have knowledge. And that makes me nervous. So I thought that was interesting.
How do you overcome that? I mean, that's the same thing on the street when you go out and you shoot random strangers. Like, you don't really know much about them. All you know is what you can see in that moment.
I think the truth is you can feel things. I mean, I don't think I've ever really taken a picture where I have been completely anonymous. I think people are aware when you're looking at them. Whether you've got a camera where you're not looking like this, but you're looking down with the new cameras and the view, finders, the mirrorless cameras. So I think it's about when you make, even if I'm taking a Candid and I make an eye contact, if I don't look dangerous or I don't look intrusive, they might say, what did you take? And I'll show them, or they'll just say, okay, and go on because it doesn't really matter to them. So I think it's about being approachable and relatable. There are times when people get really upset. When I was in Milan, that we were in, and I was with a group of photographers. One of the photographers got someone really upset on the bus, and that became a very tense moment, which got de-escalated. But unfortunately, I've not experienced that personally.
And I think you must be very approachable on the street, because I also notice in your photos that you approach a wide range of people of all, you went up to the prisoner to tell him he had great fashion.
Yeah, I do.
I wish I didn't.
I mean, it seems like you're not afraid of anybody from any walk of life. You just are comfortable with everybody. I like that about your work.
I grew up, my parents were wholesale retail and florists in the worst section of Boston. And then when my dad died, our properties were in Watts and Compton, which are not the best areas. And so I learned, and when I was doing social work, and I was working in the Tenderloin in San Francisco, and we had Delancey Street, which is this volunteer organization to help drug addicts and prisoners. They said, you're acting like a queen. You can't be like a queen. So they really sat down and said, if you're going to go in and you're going to watch someone shooting up heroin, you need to not be in dangerous when you're going there to help them. So, you're walking by someone when you're really going to go see Mr. Jones down the hall. And so they helped me learn how to be in the street a little bit. And
that's
that
for
was
sure.
the training I had when I was a graduate student.
Wow. I mean, what was that like? That sounds like an experience that would change your outlook for life.
It humanized people for me. I remember when I was doing my orals for getting my license, I was a man in the Hurley Hotel, which is one of the worst, and he hadn't been out of bed for at least a year. And I'm more of a clinical rather than a behavioral psychologist or therapist. And yet for him, it was getting him out of bed, getting him to walk down the hall. Finally, because I was working on a project, which was the Project Open, which we became the mother under Dianne Feinstein, our project became Medicare home care for Medicare. We did the project for 10-year project that led to home care. And we also set up daycare centers in hospitals, and that was a project I worked on. And so I got him into the daycare and got him reconnected with his family. But I had to be comfortable going through people shooting up, people on the floors, people disheveled, and it became, they're just human. This man had a story to tell you, how he ended up here. And so there was just no judgment. It was just relating to something human inside them.
Yeah, I think that lack of judgment is probably what helps you connect so well with anybody.
And I don't know about you, but you can feel when someone seems dangerous or upset, and you just
Yeah,
back off.
yeah.
The shot's not worth it, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If someone's uncomfortable and they got angry because I shot them, I'll erase them. There's nothing more
Yeah,
important than saying, okay, this is a hobby. This is,
yeah.
that made you uncomfortable. Then, let me erase these for you, and I'll, show them the camera. But there's a part of me that's probably been too naive.
Hey, I wanted to ask you too about you've entered lots of contests, a lot of competitions, and you've done quite well at them. So what do you get out of that? What's it do
Confidence,
for you? Yeah, okay.
confidence, getting feedback of what seems to have meaning. Every judge is different. I mean, although there are several that I've entered into, and there will probably be a handful of pictures that win all the time in different contests that, and others that nobody likes, but they love it here. A way of giving me some sense that I do have some talent and allows me to push forward. And so I think it's been acknowledgement. I think it's been validation. It's been learning about how my work is perceived. And that's why I experiment a lot. But if I have to go back to my main thing, it's documenting life. It's documenting how to live a life, because there's not a way to live a life in any culture. If you look at anthropology, you can have mothers in Peru and in the Himalaya, or in the Himalayas, or wherever you are, and they swaddle their children. Yet you go to Africa and it's the community that raises the children. Now they're all from birth, but the way you raise a child from birth on is different based on the culture, the weather conditions, and what the community rules are. And so I think that's part of what I like to express in my photos. There's just a different way to be, and none of them are wrong. They're just different.
Basically, we all want the same things deep
We all
down,
need
right?
right.
Yeah,
We need the same things. We need food,
yeah, that's
shelter,
exactly.
but there's so many different ways to do that.
Well, it looks like we lost Ashley, at least temporarily. She sent me a message that her internet was out, but we're going to keep moving. All
Okay,
right, I've got two more questions.
sure,
So you're in the Los Angeles area,
correct.
and you've got a really rich, vibrant street photography community in your area. Do you interact with many
I
of those other people?
That'd be a question for you, which is I actually don't know them. So if you
Oh,
can email me their contact, I would be glad to be part of that. So I've just been doing
yeah.
it on my own.
I could tell you one right here, and she won't mind me mentioning her name, and that's Julia Dean. And Julia Dean's been teaching photography and street photography in the LA area for a long time, and she has a collective.
Okay.
And the people in her collective are just amazingly talented. I don't know. She has like this magic fairy dust, which you
Okay.
don't need.
Very cool.
But she would definitely be somebody to get to know, and I will send you your information. LACP, Los Angeles Center of Photography.
Okay.
Julie is a former director. They do a lot of great things. Julie is doing a street LA. Boy, you know what? I forget the exact name of the project that she's doing on a regular basis. It involves lots and lots of people. So yeah, I'll send you
Okay.
that.
That would be awesome. You know that Annie Leibovitz is coming to LA to do
Oh, she is. I mean,
at the
just to do
Wilton.
a shoot or to.
No, to do a presentation of her.
Oh, that's wonderful.
If anyone is interested, it's in November at the Wiltern,
Okay.
and that should be fascinating. Her telling stories of the people she shot and
Oh my.
motivation, and the tickets are quite reasonable.
The really, yeah, that it would be something. I have one of her books.
Well,
She's amazing, especially her early stuff.
yeah,
But another question is sort of related. You were in Cuba, and were you on a workshop at that time?
I was, and I
So
got
who'd you go with?
God, I can't remember. It's an English group. I can't recall their names offhand,
Oh,
but there were 5 of us.
okay.
There were 5 of us that was there,
Oh,
and one of the honors, we basically didn't stay in any hotels. We basically stayed with
uh-huh.
a gynecologist because to make extra money, they brought people in because of the culture and these tiny little hostels where they knew everyone. But one of the really wonderful things about that was I got to work with one of the photographers who shot Fidel Castro. And in the
Really? Yeah.
underground, his house became a tiny museum for artists, and his house was covered with photographs. And we spent about 5 hours just looking through his portfolios and the work of people. And he actually, and I'm so bad at names, but he also set up a show in New York of Fidel Castro and his work with him. So that was,
Love to see that.
and there's an artist called Steve Simon who I've worked with. I like a lot, a street photographer, and he does a workshop in Cuba, and I think Steve's quite wonderful.
Did you happen to visit Foosterlandia when you were there?
Doesn't ring a bell. No, sounds a
He's
great
an
name.
artist.
No, I
Yeah,
don't.
his name is Fooster.
No, great
And
name.
yeah, this whole neighborhood where his studio has all these mosaics
Oh,
that he
wow.
makes. It's like little pictures of things. And we first drove into the area. One of the mosaics was of uh, Hugo Chavez.
Oh, yes.
And it said in Spanish, our great friend, and I found that rather creepy because he was not a good friend of the United States.
Right.
But I met him, the woman, we had a personal guide, and she knew the guy and took us up to meet him.
Right.
And he's very, very popular in the country. Cubans can't buy new cars,
Right.
as you know, but he had a brand new Toyota pickup truck.
And cars, the 3-wheel Chinese cars were everywhere.
Yeah.
You could see that everywhere.
Anyway, I just thought I'd ask. I don't want to get off topic, but I just want to ask one thing about your website. I commented on it at the beginning, and like I said, it appears to me that you are an excellent curator of your own work. I said that earlier, and
Well,
you have.
I must give I'd say one of my mentors, Luke McNair, and my friend Janice have been really instrumental in. Janice set up the website, and Luke helped me figure out what I want to present. Have been instrumental in helping guide me, in that.
That's
So I'm
good.
really appreciative of that.
Yeah. Well, they
I
do
think,
an excellent job. So many times we look at lots and lots of websites,
yeah.
and so many of them. You go to street photography, and there'll be 200 photos in there. Nobody's going to take that kind of time to look. Show your 5 best, 8 best, whatever.
I actually
And you do that.
I thought I had a bit too many, but thank you.
Not really.
Oh, good.
Not really.
Helpful. I appreciate
Yeah, because usually it's, it's like, the term, TLDNR, too long, do not read, did not
I've
read.
heard that
Yeah,
before.
because sometimes it's just overwhelming. And there
Right.
might be some good ones in there, but then they're all mixed in with
It
stuff
loses its impact,
that's
doesn't it? And you want them to want more, right?
Exactly. Make them want more. And you've done that. So, all right. Well, you have anything exciting coming up that you want to share?
I'm going to do some more shoots, enter some more contests, and try to find a workshop around the world that that will interest me. So I want to do some traveling. So I'm going to pick different artists to go and learn a bit from. So I will go see Annie Leibovitz, and I will take advantage of learning the people in my community and connect to them, which will be really helpful and interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, you should. There's some really good ones in your
I
neck
will
of the
definitely,
woods.
and I thank you for that, and thank you for this opportunity. It's been a pleasure to meet you and chat with you.
Yeah, same here. I'm glad we were able to connect. But tell us where people can find you before you go away.
Okay, and my website is Hillary Greene-Pae.com, and my Instagram is photos HGP, which I'm just starting to put up. You can email me at hgp@Tangible Management Inc. It's my business address. And I think those are the best ways to reach me. Thank you.